welcome to the start of this week's reading vlog. And so, hey shush, housekeeping-ish. You probably heard it's a different theme song because copyright. And that's fine. We're all good. It's fun, right? It's all good. Yeah. I am sorry. I did mention in the previous vlog that I was going to be changing that. Hey, Pootow. And I hate change, but it had to happen. And it was better sooner than later, you know, Band-Aid method. And also, by the time you're seeing this, this is the last day to be involved in my giveaway. I will have that vlog also in the cards and down below if you go check it out. It's my Q&A giveaway for reaching 500, because once after today, I'm going to compile that list of questions and film a video for you crazy people, because you apparently have a lot of questions. There's some good ones. I am excited. So I think that's it. This week, I have a variety of things I want to try and get to. We will see what happens. But first, my goal. I want to finish Way of Kings. I think I can do that. I'm actually positive I can, assuming I don't try to pick up too many other things. So I'd like to do that. I am finally reading White Fragility, and I'm getting pretty far in that. I am appreciating this. I liked it. I like that for the Blackout Buddy read, this was paired with White Rage. If you don't know, there was a Blackout Buddy read in June, and they chose White Fragility and White Rage. And I've already talked about White Rage on this channel. It's a great historical perspective about how every moment in history, after there was quote-unquote a success for Black people, then White Rage caused it to be essentially not completely undone, but severely hampered. And this is a book written by a white author, a white sociologist, to white people, specifically white progressive people, being like, hey, I need you to get your head out of the sand and we need to talk. And I know people who this is the only way they will understand it is if this person talks to them. So I understand that there is some I don't want to say controversy, but there is some good conversation to be had about should a white person be talking to other white people about race. I'm very early days in. I personally so far think a lot of what she's saying is nuanced and it's very obvious who her audience is. What's also interesting and what I hadn't thought about, and I was starting to read this kind of in last week's vlog, but I was like the day before, so I was like, I'm just gonna put this in the following week's vlog, but I was reading it while reading Dark and Deepest Red, which was already starting to make me think more actively about my, it's not race, but I'm a mixed person. I have a lot in me, and then even so I'm like half white, and I'm half Venezuelan, and even on my Venezuelan side, it's not like I'm full white. Like, I think we're mestizo in my Venezuelan side. Not that I know for sure. I'm basing this more on family history than any sort of DNA test or anything like that, but regardless to say is that I am a shade of brown. Don't know what it is. But because of that, and I've always passed for like Italian or white, I have actually my whole life thought about my race. Because my whole life, whenever I've had to take a test, you're given those stupid boxes and you're like, put down your race, put down your ethnicity. And I'm just like, I don't know what the right answer is. Like, I knew the right answer for everything else, but not the who am I. And that's like been with me my whole life. I have always kind of been trying to balance, am I brown enough? Does that matter? Who can tell me how brown I am? It's a very weird recognizing. I mean, it's not weird to recognize that I have privilege. I have known my whole life I have privilege. My mom has a great job, puts a good roof over my head. She is a white woman. I have things in my family that have happened to my father that have happened largely because he's a brown man. Like, I know my privilege. My sibling and I have had very different experiences in the world because I can pass as white better than they can. I mean, there's other reasons too. No one is one aspect of themselves, but I've always known my privilege even before we started saying that word. I guess I just didn't have the vocabulary, and I like that this book gives you vocabulary. It gives you framework in which to think. I'm excited to see what I will learn from it. It's definitely more of a beginner's guide, I would say, like if you've really never had to face things, and I think that comes from, this is more for white people who are well-intentioned, who maybe they really don't have black friends or really have never discussed racism so far. Because, I mean, you really do have to start from the ground up. You have to start with the assumption people don't know much, and especially since she brings up she's actually done a lot of these panels, and so she's used to what she's normally receiving from people when she brings up this idea of white fragility. So, yeah, I'm interested in it. I have a lot of people in my life who I just want to shove this book in their hands just as like a starting point because I'm from Ohio. And Ohio is... We want to talk about how I'm mixed. Ohio's mixed. It's a mixed bag of racism and liberalism. It is... Ohio's a lot. I mean, I love it. I love where I'm from. I actually, like, when I think about my identity, I actually think of myself more as a Clevelander than anything else because I think culturally I act like a lot of Clevelanders. Like, I think that's where my culture comes from, is from that city. And so, yeah, I mean, my whole group of friends, if you look at them, we're a complete mixed bag because of my high school, and the one thing that we really have in common is our culture, our shared experience of living in Cleveland, a city that rarely wins sports, that has really weird weather, and is, sometimes just not considered as good of a city as other places. I don't know. Anyways, that's a tangent, but, so yeah, I'm reading that. I'm going to finish Way of Kings, and I also want to read The Thing Around Your Neck by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. I've been wanting to read these short stories for a very long time. Also, I already put the bookmark in it. I haven't started yet, but I got the Sister Sci-Fi bookmark. It was just the one by my bed, and I'm like, it matches the cover and stuff. I like when I pick bookmarks that match covers. So I'm really excited, because we're doing our July book club tonight. So I need to read this so I know if we're going, like, how we're going to approach that book club. Are we going to focus on a few short stories? Is there enough of a cohesive theme across other ones? Like, yeah, because I'm in charge of that book club, and I'm very excited. So I'm excited to get to that. And if I somehow have time, I'll pick something else up. Ooh, I am listening to Clap When You Land. Oh, I'm only 11 minutes in, but guys. Yeah, I'm really glad I waited for the audiobook because, as you guys probably know, this is a story written in verse. And if you don't know, this is a story written in verse. And when I heard that, and I heard that the author is actually the narrator for the audiobook, I'm like, well, then I just need to listen to it. Because I've actually, gosh, I can't remember the last time, or if there's been a time I have read something in verse, and I didn't want my cadence in my head's narration to mess up with my experience. So just waited for the audiobook, and it's great so far. I mean, it's tragic. It starts with the premise of these two daughters losing their father, realizing they both have the same father, and, that they both have to come to terms with their father had this other life, and with the loss and the mourning that comes with it, and I think they're going to meet, and I'm just really interested in it, and I'm just liking the presentation. So yeah, that's the audiobook, and I'm excited. Alright, so I think that's everything you guys need to hear from me, hopefully. I don't know, I don't have more book thoughts yet, because I need to read these things. I am surrounded by books and cats, so I'm gonna go. Bye. Alright, it's time for a check-in. First thing, I went to the library again. And got 9 Fox Gambit. I already had the Kindle, but I'm excited to have this. I'm reading it for the reading rush, so I'm not reading it this week. And you already know I'm going to be reading it because you've seen that TBR video, and if not, I will put that in the cards for you. But, yeah, I just get excited about going to the library book. It's like all the joy of getting a new book without spending money. It's great. Things I have done now. I have finished Clap When You Land. I got an audiobook because it's in verse, and I've been wanting to listen to it, and it was really good. I gave it like 4 stars, mainly because I don't know why, but it didn't like emotionally impact me like a whole bunch, although I really, really enjoyed the story and the premise. This is 2 girls. They are sisters, but they don't know it because their dad had 2 families, and they don't find out till after their dad dies in a plane crash. And so you're exploring grief, you're exploring identity and struggles, and I think it was really well done, and I really liked these sisters, learning that they are sisters. I think I really liked the audiobook and the verse because it felt very intentional, and I liked some of the imagery that's portrayed and some of the purpose that is portrayed in their thoughts, and I think you get some of more of the raw emotions. But I think the disadvantage of this being pretty short and in verse is I didn't get to develop close connections to these characters. There are some ways in which I could relate to them, but yeah, I guess in general it was a good experience, but I don't think it hit me the way I wanted it to, but it was still really good, so I'd highly recommend the audiobook. And I finished White Fragility, and yeah, this is really interesting. I could probably ramble on about this for a really long time, but what I will say is that my biggest takeaways, and takeaways I've had kind of about myself for a while, and what this was good at, is it gave me words and definitions for things I was already seeing but couldn't explain. An example of that is white solidarity, which happens in liberal and progressive areas just as much as in conservative, racist areas. It helped me, so I have always known through my experiences and conversations with Black and brown people in Boston that it's really annoying to be Black and brown in Boston, and that they almost want to, if they're from Alabama. I actually talked to a woman who was like, I'm going to move back because I'd rather be there where it's out in the open, because here there's a lot of racism that is completely ignored because you're not allowed to talk about it because it makes people uncomfortable. And so it gave me some words to help with that. I think it was really good that there's a chapter dedicated to the good-bad binary. We have this idea that if you do something racist or say something offensive and someone calls you out on it, they think you're a bad person. It's just this thing where we just associate that if someone says, hey, that hurt me because of XYZ, and you go, oh, that wasn't my intention, my bad, suddenly now you're putting all of it on the person you hurt to make you feel better. And that's just, when you make a mistake, well, first, I go through the world knowing I'm going to make mistakes. Even right now, I'm sure I'm making mistakes. And, I mean, the goal is to make as few mistakes as possible. So try and think through what I do and say, right? But I'm going to make mistakes. I have been raised in a society that is inherently racist. So I'm going to have biases, and they're going to come out in things that I do or say. Now, what I've always hoped, and what my goal's always been, is that when that happens, and if I am lucky enough that someone trusts me enough to tell me, hey, that's not okay, because that puts a lot of pressure on them. I know that it's not fun to confront other people when they do something wrong. That makes the person confronting is also nervous. So, if they trust me, my goal has been, and something I've been working on, is to first, take it in and try really, really hard to not get defensive. Because chances are, if that person cares about you, that's why they're telling you. They don't want you to do that again and upset someone else. If they don't care about you, they're not going to tell you. They're not going to try and educate you. So I don't know, that was a big takeaway for me, that understanding that I'm going to mess up. And I take that for a lot of things in life. But, I mean, specifically, when it comes to race relations, another thing that's brought up is we all know that we will do things that are based off some gender societal norms. My boyfriend and I are pretty good at having a partnership, but we still fall into gender roles. If there are heavy things, the default is he will move them. Even though I can lift up to 100 pounds, I could do it, but if I'm feeling lazy, I know he will, right? But that's not seen as bad. Am I taking advantage of a gender situation, a gender dynamic? Yes. But it doesn't make me a bad person. And I think we just need to understand that we're going to be making actions based on race because we can't not. And when we do that and it's offensive and hurtful, we need to be able to internalize that. And if we want to change, work towards that change. So that was a little rambly. I really could talk about this forever. It's a great starter book. I thought, an interesting sociological perspective, because the last one I read was White Rage, and that was more historical perspective. There are a lot of people I want this book in the hands of, because I think we all just get a little defensive. And part of it, I think, is the education system. We're taught that being wrong is also bad. Like if you're in a school setting and you answer the question wrong, you get all red-faced, right? You get all, I never want to talk in class again. I feel like that's what happens when we have discussions about race and someone tells you you're not perfect. But none of us should pretend to be perfect. It's just like a fallacy. Anyways, that's a ramble. I'm also reading The Thing Around Your Neck, and I'm only 2 short stories in, because if you guys have watched any of my other vlogs with short stories, I don't like to read too many of them at once because I like to let them sit in. And the second one, because I think I've chatted about the first one already. If not, I guess I'll fix that later. But this one was called Imitation, and this one was cool. I think she's great at naming her short stories. They really tell me at the front gate, what should I be expecting from this work? And in this one, it's really interesting. You have imitation pieces of Nigeria art and artifacts. You have this almost imitation marriage. You have this woman who discovers, in a more solid way than normal, that her husband is unfaithful. Like, I think before she kind of knew, but then she's told that this girlfriend's being brought into her home in Nigeria while she lives in the States. And then there's this turning point where we go from imitation to maybe actual original, and it's really interesting. And so far, so you guys might know this, might not, I like when my short story collections have like cohesive themes across all the stories, or like common, it's just common something, like it's like a good music album. I think I describe it better in my review for Her Body and Other Parties, which is another great short story collection. But these last 2 seem to end relatively quickly after a pivotal changing moment. And also, there's this sense of being trapped in both of these stories. I don't know, I'm excited to read more. I'm actually going to read another one after this if I have time. So yeah, and still working on Way of Kings for the Off the Grid Readathon, which starts tomorrow. If you're seeing this vlog, it's already happened, but it's a readathon where you don't get on your phone while you're reading, so hopefully all the reading gets done. I'm going to continue The Thing Around Your Neck and Way of Kings, and like if for some reason I'm just on it, maybe I'll start my Reading Rush TBR, maybe I'll pick up another book like a crazy woman. I don't know. But that's it for this way too long check-in. If you want to come up, come up. He's so fat. Oh gosh. So, I've accomplished a lot since the last time I checked in. Yeah, my Off the Grid readathon stint was amazing. So, first of all, before I get into the books I've read, I won a giveaway, and this is what I got with it. And it's Ted Chiang's short story collection, Stories of Your Life and Others. This is the one with Arrival in it. I think that's the title story. And look how shiny it is. And like, it's shiny on the spine too. I don't know if you guys can appropriately see it, but I really like it, and I'm very tempted. So my boyfriend does have a copy of Exhalation. I have joked about stealing that copy. But there's a copy that's like this, but it has like lungs, like the bionic lungs from the title story for that one. Because this kind of represents the title story based off what I know from the movie. And I kind of want it because I collect books and I shouldn't, but it's only $10. But I'm literally packing to move right now, so I'm making mistakes. I now have finished Way of Kings. Is finished. I just really love this world, and I love, this is probably, so I still give it 5 stars because of my intense nostalgia value. And like, there are very few books, especially this many pages, that I've read 4 times. Because I've now read this book 4 times. But it's definitely not like a perfect book, because it's a pretty slow pacing. It's a very big setup book. Like, there are payoffs in the end game. You do have these big moments, these reveals. You feel satisfied. But like, I also know what's coming, and oh my. But yeah, so I know what's coming, and I guess of all the setup books from series I've read, this is by far the best. So if I compare it among that type of book for an epic series that we're setting the stage, you're introduced to the characters. I also really like, by the time you're seeing this, so coming on Friday, I'm going over my tier rankings of subgenres. This is very much, to me, like a dying world or a world going into chaos. But there's also, it's the opposite of like my least favorite trope, which is magic is leaving the world. I don't like it. It's used a lot because Tolkien did it first, and Tolkien, rightfully so, has been paid homage to in fantasy. But I'm tired of that because I just want magic, and this one's more magic's coming back, and yeah, pretty big fan. So, but that also means that like everyone's confused. And what I'm really interested in, this is just a little Stormlight ramble. So it's going to be a 10-book series. I've known this for 10 years. So I went in reading the first book knowing this is not finished. And then he had to write Wheel of Time, so it was extra not finished. But the first 5 are one thought. And recently he's told us that the break of time between the first 5 and the second 5 is going to be similar as the break between Mistborn and the next 2 Mistborn books. Because the next 2 so Mistborn can be its own complete thought. So if you start that trilogy and you read Mistborn and you're like, I don't really like it, you're fine. You've read a complete story. And then the other 2, if you read Well of Ascension, you must read Hero of Ages if you at all care or have a heart, because it's stressful. I was very lucky that when I read it, the other one was published. I was just dumb and didn't have it in my hands, so I had to go to like, was it a Borders or a Barnes & Noble? I don't know. I went to back when I had a local bookstore. I got it. My hometown doesn't really have a local bookstore anymore that's close, which is a bummer. So I'm just curious, because it has been like the first 3 have been really good, but it has been a lot of, oh, sorry, he pushed the table. It has been a lot of like curiosity of the world. Like we're all really just trying to figure out what's happening, but in very epic ways. So I wonder if like the last 5 are more, I don't know. I'm just curious. Anyway, sorry. I'm going to stop gushing, but I enjoyed my time. Probably read Words of Radiance next month or the month after that. I'm most excited to reread Oathbringer. Actually, that's a lie. I love Words of Radiance. I'm very excited to read that. But I'm most intrigued by my opinions for Oathbringer, because I think I liked Oathbringer more than Way of Kings, but less than Words of Radiance if I'm ranking Stormlight books. But I think Oathbringer has the most for me to unpack. And man, some of these things hit different when you know some of the reveals you have as you go through the series. Because you're like, oh, this framing is now different. I also finished A Thing Around Your Neck by Chimamanda Adichie. And I really liked it. I probably will do a full review on this because there's so much to unpack in all of these stories. Like there are, I want to say 12 stories. And it's all really interesting. And also, as someone who just doesn't know a lot about Nigeria and the relationship between Nigerian immigrants and America, there's just a lot of that in these stories. There were a lot of things I looked up while I was reading to get like historical context to events, and I just really appreciated it. We're doing a book club on it, so I'm very excited to see what happens. I don't know what my favorite story is in here. I really liked the last one. The last one was, I don't want to say it wrong per se. Stop licking me, cat. The Headstrong Historian. And that one was cool. That one I think was the one set furthest back in time. Most of them are pretty contemporary, or like they were the 90s or the 80s. This one I'm pretty sure was early 20th century, if not late 19th century. And yeah, it was really cool. There's a woman character who has a son who kind of gets turned into a missionary because she wanted him to learn English for power. Not power, but just because she noticed the trends that if you worked with the white man that was showing up, there were benefits. But then, there was this trade, so he didn't believe in the traditions as much. But then you have the granddaughter that's born. And it was really interesting. I think I enjoyed that one the most. There's one written entirely in second person, and I'm always really intrigued when that's used. It doesn't bother me, but it's always like, that's such an intentional choice. So yeah, I feel like I really need to compile my thoughts for this, but I really enjoyed this collection. I really want to read more by Chimamanda. I've heard great things about Americana and Half of a Yellow Sun and Purple Hibiscus. Like, I already know that I like their writing style. And yeah, there's just a lot of good themes in here about like, I kind of saw an ever-present theme of being trapped. Not necessarily physically trapped, although there is a story where people are unable to leave a room for the entire story. So, I really like this. So I'll probably, I don't know when, probably in August I'll do a review on this. Oof, cute. And so I had bad insomnia, as happens when I get stressed. Insomnia is just like, it sucks. And sometimes what I do is I'll always have my Kindle next to me. I'll take it out and I'll like, I wasn't in the middle of anything on my Kindle, so I just went through and I was like, oh, here's this novella I haven't read in forever, and that was Finna. Was not expecting to read this week. It's really fun. This is a novella that takes place in, it has a different name, but assume IKEA. Okay? There's an IKEA and wormholes keep showing up in it. And you have these two workers who have to go find a patron who got lost in the wormholes. And it's really fun. It's really fun, but also, like, it does touch on some, like, some introspective parts about relationships. You primarily get the perspective of, I think her name was Ava? I could be wrong. But they had just gotten out of a breakup with the coworker they have to work with, and there's interesting dynamics there and what they're trying to unpack. And I was talking about this with some friends. I don't think this story overstayed its welcome to me. It could have been expanded probably and done really well, but I just had fun with, I think it's 150 pages. Like, I enjoyed the adventure for as long as it was, because it kind of gets to you the type of questing story, right? You're searching for something, and on the way weird stuff happens, which is sometimes a plot structure I'm not big on. And so to have it in this concise way with some really fun sci-fi elements and like this character dynamic, it was good. I had a great time with it. So yeah, Finna was great. And just so you all know, the author is non-binary. So that's just good to know. I didn't know that till I looked it up, which is why it's good to look things up. And so something also, housekeeping, wanted to talk about. I mentioned in Twitter that I would bring it up here. So I am A, trying to graduate, B, work starting, C, moving soon, and D, just, trying to make sure I still have fun doing this and not getting overwhelmed. And I mentioned in a previous vlog, like, probably might change some things up, but I haven't figured out how I'll do that. So I'm still keeping these Wednesday vlog videos because I like them. They're good on Wednesday. This is the week in review on Wednesday, weekly reading vlog, whatever. I like all the W's. It makes me happy. Monday, I'm still going to have typically be like what I consider just like fun videos. It might be a tag, TBR, wrap up, recommendation video, tier ranking video. I don't know. Whatever makes me happy. Science behind the magic. I don't know. Whatever I want to film, I'm going to film there. And on Saturdays, I am always going to try and have a review because I really want to do more reviews, even though I know they're not for like everyone, but I really like putting them together. And I can't do 3 videos and a review a week. I was just getting too tired and stressed, and I don't want that. But when I do have time, I will put bonus videos on Friday. So that's what you're going to see on this channel from now on. In my TBRs, I will talk about what I'm currently planning on reviewing for the following month, like I did in the last TBR video. And also, I think, and I'll start in this one, I'll start trying to tell you what is coming up so you know what to maybe get excited for. So like this Friday is a tier ranking video on the subgenres in fantasy and how I rank them. Saturday is going to be a review on Pet by Kweki Emezi, which you should check out. I'm very proud of that review. I'm very happy with it. I recorded it a second time because the first time was good, but I was like, I can do better. Pet deserves better. And on Monday, I'm currently planning, not filmed yet, so subject to change, but currently planning my next Science Behind the Magic with part 2 of the quantum mechanics. And so yeah, I'm excited about that. So that's it for this weekly reading vlog, and I hope you're having a wonderful day. Bye.